Welcome to the Woman's Connection. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen, your moderator. The Woman's Connection is a program about events shaping women's lives and helping one gain authentic power on a personal or professional level. So won't you stay tuned?
Welcome. We're continuing a conversation with Joanna Infeld. And what we're going to talk about is the numeral 7 and how it has power beyond belief. And I would like to welcome back Joanna. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Joanna, you were saying that the number 7 has a lot of significance and power.
Yes.
Please start to clarify.
Okay. First, to look at energy coming from the sun, which is light. So when light is put through a prism, we've all had the experience at school, it breaks into 7 colors, which are the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And here on planet Earth, energy appears in 7s. And that's why 7 is such a special number, a kind of magical number. People do things in 7s, feel things in 7s, and energies can be at 7 levels. And we, in our work, look to those energies. So it's from the kind of dense energy at level 7 way up to the very refined energies at level 1.
Is 7, okay, so 7 would be the most powerful, and then 1 would be your weak or your beginning.
Well, the way we look at it, it's a question of how you number it, but we actually number it the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah. So 7 is kind of dense, a bit toxic. It's difficult energies that we find that we maybe don't want to be with. Things like, so any human behavior can fall into one of the 7 categories. So for example, at level 7 are things like criminal behaviors, addictive behaviors, murder, violence. I don't want to dwell there, but you get the idea. And then at level 6 is day-to-day goings-on, like going to work, habits, boredom. So habitual behaviors live at level 6. And then level 5 already starts to shift. At level 5 are behaviors where a person wants to improve themselves. So learning. All the universities of the world would belong at level 5. Though the motive for being there might be at level 6 or even level 7. I mean, some person might come to learn things only to earn a living. If that's as far as their reasoning goes, then that will be a level 6 motive, though they're doing a level 5 thing because they're improving themselves. And then at level 4, you start being connected to nature spirits, to energies that are finer, healing energies. And then level 3, 2, and 1, it refines from there. So all the religions of the world really talk about levels 1 and 2.
When you're thinking about it then, so you're saying the Almighty God and your spirit and your religions are at 0 or at 1? At 1.
1 and 2, yes.
1 and 2. All right. How can you best use this knowledge to enhance your life?
Right. Well, in my work, I identified 7 ages that we go through in life. So apart from developing, like when we learn things and we learn new skills and we work on our character and we become more spiritual maybe, but there's also a natural development that we go through in our life. So I've identified 7 different stages that a woman goes through in her life, and a man too, but I specifically have written for women. One obvious one to see is puberty, and puberty happens around 11, and the reason I identified 11 is a sun cycle, and the sun comes around, it's a 22-year cycle, but 11 is like half a cycle, and 11 is the time when things shift. Not necessarily on your birthday, it won't be it's different for everybody. I mean, some people will start puberty maybe even at 9, and some people at 14. It really varies. But in and around 11, and an interesting statistic, when a child is born, when it's 1 year old, it has a greater possibility to survive than a newborn, and a 2-year-old is more likely to survive than a 1-year-old. But that shifts because an 80-year-old is more likely to survive than an 81-year-old. So it obviously shifts. So as you get older to a certain age, then you get stronger and more likely to survive. And then it shifts at a certain age that you're less likely to survive the older you get. So when I ask the question, what age does that shift happen? Most people think it's maybe 30, 40, 50, somewhere there. On a global scale, it's actually 11, which is quite shocking, isn't it?
Indigenous societies, 11 is
Exactly.
a man, but in the Jewish religion, you don't become a man until you're 13. And I think every culture has got a different age level of where you become a man versus, and as a woman, the same thing.
Yes.
So,
and also it's changing. I mean, these days, certainly in North America, children are going through puberty earlier. So girls are ovulating earlier. It's probably to do with diet, it's probably to do with all kinds of environmental aspects, but it is changing. So there's no real date where you can say, now I'm hitting puberty. It's a process, right? But in and around 11, that's when it happens. And as we know, everything changes. I mean, a child up to 11 is a child. And learning, you never learn so much as you do in those first 11 years, like reading, writing, walking, crawling, so many things. And then 11, everything starts to shift. You become interested, obviously, in sex, in the other gender. There's a completely different self-awareness that begins to develop at 11. So it's quite dramatic, isn't it?
it is. The first cycle is at 11.
Yes.
The second cycle would be 22.
Absolutely.
And then 33.
Yes.
And then 44.
Yes.
44, 55,
Yes.
66,
Yes.
77.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
The last one, obviously, as long as you live, so 77 or maybe even to 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward this to you're an adult.
Right.
What emotional stuff happens to you when you're like in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or
Right.
70s?
Okay, well, let's just go through them briefly.
Okay.
So, after puberty, then are the teenage years. Bill Cosby used to say teenagers are brain damaged. They're trying everything and not a lot of common sense, but it's a time of adventures and trying things out. Then comes the age of responsibility. So that's when we go out into the world. That's when we start our relationships, more serious relationships. That's when we might have children. That's when we might have our first home that we will decorate and be in charge of, because up to now we've been with our parents or being looked after. So it's quite a dramatic change at around 21, 22, whatever it is, but around those years. And a new career. I mean, it's really, really busy times if you think about what it was like, right? After school, going into maybe college, then going into the workplace, having a relationship, maybe getting married, maybe having children. It all happens within those years between 22 and 33. So it's a really busy time, and it's not really time to pause and think about oneself and think about why am I here and who am I. Obviously, people do think about those things, but they're so busy in trying to establish themselves, to try and find out who you are, to try and find out what you can do in the world. And then comes that magical time, which some people call the midlife crisis. I like to call it the midlife opportunity, because again, the energy shifts. And really, this is like the midlife. So if you think of like life as climbing a hill, so this is where you'd be on top of the hill. I call it the Janus years. I don't know if you know that Janus is the Roman god with two faces looking both ways. That's where we get our word January from, because January is a time when you look at the old year, you know, all those programs you have about what happened last year, and looking forward, what am I going to be doing this year? What are my New Year resolutions? So that's what January comes from. It's from the word Janus. So in the lifetime, the midlife is the Janus years, because you look back to what you've done so far, what you've accomplished or not accomplished as well, and you think, well, if I keep going like this is what my life is going to be like. And most people, and I really haven't met anybody, I think, who hasn't had what they call, or a lot of people call midlife crisis, but I call midlife opportunity, where they've changed something dramatic. So you get studying something new, starting a new career, second marriages, or if you had to sacrifice some kind of hobby or something you loved to do when you were younger because you had to go out and earn your living, here in the midlife years, you might want to take that up again. So some people might go traveling, or buy that car that they always wanted to buy, or go back and buy a motorbike because they never could afford it before. You know, you get these middle-aged men on their motorbikes. It's all part of that time, the midlife, around 33, 35. And it's a time of also looking forward to what next and what do I really want to do with my life. Because in the first 22 to 33, we come out of our education and we go and get a job. And by the time of the midlife, we might realize this is not really what I want to do. And it's time to completely refigure what we're doing. 44,
then you go to 55, and then you go to, let's go to like 66, retirement.
Okay, right. Well, and then of course after 33, 44, then there's the pre-menopause and the menopause years.
Right.
And after retirement, which I don't believe is really a natural occurrence to just stop working, stop doing everything. I've known people who, when they stop working, they kind of lose their purpose in life. I think this is the time to flower. This is our time to really come into our own, to be who we were meant to be, to find out, because it might take years to find out what you really want to do. You know, not everybody's born like Mozart. Mozart knew, I want to do music. Well, he was born into a musical family. We don't know what would have happened if he wasn't. But he knew, I want to write music, and that's what he did, and that was the love of his life. But most of us, it takes longer to find exactly what we were meant to do or what we feel that we've come here to do. And this is all part of really believing that we are here for a purpose, that it's not just by chance, and that something wanted us here, and there is something that we can uniquely offer. Because every person has a very unique set of skills and can do things that other people can't. And it takes time to find out what that is. But by retirement is when we're really, really ready. That's what I believe anyway. It's like in the indigenous tribes where they had a lot of respect for the elders. And in the Iroquois, for example, there were the clan mothers. And the clan mothers were the grandmothers. And if the men decided, the council of war, they decide they want to go to war, they couldn't go to war without agreement from the clan mothers. They would take their ideas to the clan mothers. And the clan mothers would say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. And that would be final.
We go through all these different stages. And what can we do to enhance our stages when we get to the retirement age or about to retire?
Right. Well, I think it's really important to embrace the age that you are. So, for example, you know, because of literature and magazines, there is this kind of hype that youth is best. And a lot of women, especially women, unfortunately, try to look younger. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to look younger, but to also not try to not be the age that you are, because then you're missing out all the opportunities that are opening up at that age. So rather than trying to be the age that we're not, to appreciate the fact that the energies do change throughout our life. Again, taking that analogy of a hill, climbing a hill, that life is a hill like that, is that through the first part of our life, there's a kind of vibrant energy that we're born with. Like a child has so much energy. And I liken it to the stages of the rainbow, or the colors of the rainbow. So childhood is very much like red. It's got a lot of vibrancy. It's hot. It goes. It does things. It runs around. And I don't know if you know, they did this experiment where they hired an athlete to follow out a 4-year-old around the playground all day long, and he was a professional athlete, and he was totally exhausted because these 4-year-olds, they have a lot of energy. If you've ever babysat for a 4-year-old, I mean, it's a lot of work because they want to do this, they want to get into that, they run around, they don't want to lie down for their nap in the afternoon. I think naps are created for children because the grown-ups need that time out. So that is a time of a lot of energy, of vibrancy. And then it kind of dwindles, like when you're in your 18, 19, 17, you go out all night, you go straight to work, you work all day, and you might even go out the next night, and then you might crash. But no problem to not sleep the whole night and still go to work and still be relatively fresh. Come 30, you start feeling it. You can't do that 2 nights in a row, And so slowly that physical energy does dwindle. But the marvelous thing is that around the midlife there's a new energy that comes from the other end. It's like something calling you to where you're going. And you can feel it, and it's more of a spiritual nature. And this is where it's a great time to start really thinking about who you really are and what you really want to do in this world.
Spiritual nature is calling you. What would you suggest somebody to do to kind of explore it a little bit more if they're not surrounded by like kinfolk?
To find kinfolk, because they are out there. I mean, these days with the internet, with all the information that's available out there, and all the books, all the teachers, there's so much. And I think the world is full of wisdom, but you have to try and find it. And also to ask yourself the question, well, what do I really want to do? How can I contribute?
Is there one particular magazine or a book or a website that you direct people to if they're just in the exploring stages?
What we do, my husband and I, it's called Energy Worlds. Our website is energyworlds.com, and that might be a place to start. But again, with the ability to just Google in spiritual information, one can explore any religion, any traditional thoughts, and I think that's a time to really look into what appeals to a person.
One of the things you had written about in your books is the 7 steps or 7 ideas to an argument and how to win.
Yeah, it's not so much how to win an argument, but how to resolve an argument. I think there's a difference between finding a solution rather than winning, because winning means there's a loser, right?
True.
Okay, so we identified 7 steps to having a successful argument, one of which is to state one's value for the other person. Just before beginning, to really say, I really value our friendship, and I want to sit down and argue this through with you so that it's not something that's going to affect our friendship. So it's part of a journey. I mean, arguing is natural. Because we have a difference of opinions. So how do we work through this to find the best solution for everyone concerned? So rather than my point is better or not, but trying to be able to listen to the other person. So another step is to never say never. And there's a great compulsion to be able to say that, like, you never wash the dishes, which is not true, because I'm sure it's not true that someone never does something. So not to argue about a whole string of events, but keep to the one thing that has just happened. Because very often an argument might happen because things have loaded up through a time span. And it's a great skill to be able to just argue about what's happening now, rather than bringing in other things. So sometimes a person will say to the other person, well, you haven't washed the dishes. And the other person, well, you didn't wash them yesterday. And that's a compulsion, again, that we have because we want to defend ourselves. So how do we defend ourselves? By going on attack. So it's also not going on attack and not being defensive about it, but just really trying to look at the issue. Now, I know I keep talking about dishes, but it could be anything, right?
True, very
and
true.
the other word not to use is always. You always say that. You always call me that in public. For example, somebody's arguing about because they've been called something in public. But always, again, brings in a lot of other times that it might have happened, whereas an argument should be just about the one incident. So that's
being in the
step.
moment.
Being in the moment. Arguing about one specific thing, not bringing in other things. There might be other times to be able to open those up later, and try not to get heated. So another thing that people often do, and this is again where we talk about energies, because when you're arguing, you're trying to resolve some heat or some misunderstanding or something that one person sees from one point of view and the other person sees from another point of view. So to be able to resolve it, we need to be able to look in a cool way at both sides and find almost like a third point. It's almost like a triangle. It's your point of view, my point of view, and there's some logical
right way.
solution to this situation. So another step is not to just walk off. And some people do that. You know, they walk off, they bang the door, and they go off because they just can't take it anymore. But then the other person is left with all this energy. They've built up all this energy to argue with, and then somebody just leaves them with it. And so there's a recommendation not to do that. I mean, obviously, sometimes it gets so heated that you just have to call time out. But then to be able to say, hey, I need time out. I need a few minutes. I need to go for a walk. But I will come back, and we will resolve this. And to see argument as a positive thing. There's nothing wrong with a good argument. People feel better after they've had a good argument once they resolve the issue.
How can you use your energy to an advantage?
First of all, knowing that it happens, knowing that you are an energy being, knowing that there's energy around you, knowing also that you carry with you your history. So there's energies from your whole life that you carry around with you. And so knowing it, this is something that we teach people, how to see energies around a person, because we're taught from very little, we're taught to focus. You go to school, read, write, focus on the book, focus on the teacher, focus on the blackboard. Whereas when you look at energies around a person, it's a different part of the eye that's looking. So we need to unfocus the eye.
So is this different than the aura readings, or is it the same?
This is looking at the aura, but also the innermost part of the aura is the etheric, which is kind of around the body. It takes the shape of the body, whereas the aura is like egg-shaped. We're the only beings on planet Earth that are in an egg-shaped aura, because a tree has an energy and emanation, but it takes the shape of the tree and kind of dissipates into the atmosphere of the planet. Whereas we're like protected. If you take, there's a bit of air caught under a leaf in water. It takes the shape of an egg or like a bubble. It's a bubble. Well, take the Corona bottle, right? It's got bubbles of air. And they naturally seek to join their own element, and they go up to the air. We see that in bottles of fizzy water. Well, we're like that. We have a bubble of energy because we're, in a way, away from our element. And then when we die, that's when that bubble of energy dissipates and
goes back.
The
number 7 is so powerful.
Yes.
How can we use it to our advantage?
Well, I think we can use it by trying to find sevens in things.
All right.
You know, there are 7 kinds of crystals. There are 7 categories of trees. So naturally occurring 7s are everywhere. And we have that also in our calendar, like the 7 days of the week. But if you do something 7 times, that's almost like an octave. I know we say octave, but there's actually 7 notes in an octave, because the next do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and then do is the next octave, right? So there's 7 notes in an octave. And so if we do something 7 times, we are really reaffirming it. So it's a good thing to know, because then if you're trying to build confidence or be punctual, do it 7 times in a row, and that will make a big difference.
Well, I was under the impression it takes 21 days to change a habit.
That's absolutely true.
Okay, so then it's 7 times 3 equals 21.
Exactly, which is also the major arcana of the tarot for the same reason. 3 times 7 is 21. It's also the key to the door. When you're 21 years old in Britain, you get the key to the door, you're considered to be an adult.
Joanna, in the closing moments of the show, what would you like to leave the audience with?
To embrace every age that you are and enjoy the joys that go with that age and the challenges, because every age has its own challenges and its own joys and its own possibilities. And I think it's so important to live to the full and love the life that you live and the age that you are.
Joanna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great.
Thank you.
And are you living your life to the fullest? Love to hear from you. Please write us here at The Woman's Connection. Bye now.